Imagine a world where the threat of war looms large, and the great powers of the world are engaged in a delicate dance of military might and diplomatic posturing. This is the reality that the world is facing today, as the U.S. observes massive war games between Belarus and Russia, leaving NATO allies on edge. But here's where it gets interesting. These military drills, known as Zapad 2025, are taking place right on the doorstep of the NATO alliance, in training grounds in Russia and Belarus, as well as in the waters of the Baltic and Barents Seas. The exercises are a clear show of force by Russia and its main ally Belarus, and have put the U.S.'s NATO allies in Europe on high alert, particularly in light of recent Russian drone incursions into Poland's airspace. And this is the part most people miss. The U.S. has sent a delegation of military officers to observe the drills, including Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Brian Shoup, who was seen meeting with Belarusian military officials and thanking them in Russian for the invitation. But what's really going on here? Is this a sign of improving ties between the U.S. and Belarus, or is it just a clever ploy by Moscow to distract from its own aggressive actions? The answer is not clear, but one thing is certain. The situation is complex and multifaceted, and requires a nuanced understanding of the geopolitical dynamics at play. For example, just days after Russian drones penetrated Poland's airspace, causing NATO jets to scramble and shoot them down, Romania reported that another drone had crossed its borders. This has led to calls from the U.S.'s European allies for a stronger response from Washington to the drone incursions, but so far, the Trump administration has been reluctant to further confront the Kremlin. In fact, Trump has suggested that the drone incursions may have been a mistake, and has even gone so far as to praise Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying that his patience with him is sort of running out, and running out fast. But is this a sign of weakness, or a clever strategy to lull Putin into a false sense of security? The truth is, no one really knows. And that's what makes this situation so fascinating. As the drills began at a massive compound north of Minsk, the Belarusian Defense Ministry claimed that NATO was panicking in the face of Russian and Belarusian firepower. "It's a big mistake from NATO," said Valery Ravenko, a senior Belarusian general. "Where do you think there's more personnel?" "Probably over there. Why are 40,000 afraid of 6,800? This is a good question. But here's the thing. The Russians are not just showing off their military might. They are also showcasing their modernized nuclear capabilities. For months, they have been outfitting Belarus with tactical nuclear weapons, and have recently announced that they will place their powerful new Oreshnik medium-range ballistic missiles there. This has European leaders worried, and for good reason. The Russians have already used tactical nuclear weapons in combat against Ukraine, and the thought of them having even more powerful weapons at their disposal is a daunting one. As the training ended, dozens of Russian tanks and armored vehicles emerged from their dugouts, all flying the Russian flag and equipped with cages and netting around their turrets for protection against drone attacks. This is what the Russians call modern combat tactics, and it's a clear sign that they are preparing for a long and bloody conflict. But what does this mean for the rest of us? Is this the start of a new Cold War, or is it just a minor skirmish in a larger game of geopolitical cat and mouse? The truth is, no one really knows, and that's what makes this situation so terrifying. So we have to ask, are we on the brink of war, or is this just a clever bluff by the Russians? And what role will the U.S. play in all of this? Will they stand strong against the Kremlin, or will they back down and allow Russia to continue its aggressive expansion? The answers to these questions are not clear, but one thing is certain. The world is watching, and the stakes are higher than ever. So, we want to hear from you. What do you think is going on here? Do you think the U.S. is doing enough to counter the Russian threat, or should they be doing more? Let us know in the comments.